Hey, Stoney here with a very special episode of Mechabellum. This is an interview with the creator of Mechabellum, Bearlike. A bit of background. Bearlike first had the idea of Mechabellum in 2016, when he wanted to create a competitive strategy game that focuses on predicting your opponents, forming good formations, and innovative thinking without requiring intense micro and player reflexes. He's currently leading a team of 12 working on the game Mechabellum. Bearlike is also an active player of the game with a high MMR of 1800 plus, and he can always be seen taking games from some of the best players in the world. In this interview, we've collected questions from the community about the current state of the game, plans for the community wishlist items, and what we can expect from Mechabellum as it leaves the early access. Watch until the end to learn about a potential new unit coming to Mechabellum in the near future. The interview was done in Mandarin. However, I have translated it in English for your convenience. Let's jump in. Hey Bearlike, thank you for taking your time and do this interview with me. First question, I've always been very curious about your name, Bearlike. Why did you choose this name as your game tag?
It's quite simple. It's because I'm a big guy like a bear, so the name is just that.
What's your current favorite unit and why?
Currently, my favorite is the newly added unit, the Sandworm. The main reason is that this new unit has its own unique mechanism which brings many new changes to how battles are played. It's quite disruptive, especially against units that require long lock-on time, like the melting point or the hacker. The Sandworm can be extremely effective.
What's your favorite tech and why?
Currently, my favorite tech upgrade is the Assault mode on the Marksman. The main reason is that this technology can completely transform the role of the Marksman, almost turning it into a new unit. So this is my favorite tech now, because it brings the most tactical changes.
I understand that there are quite a few developers from your company that actually play Mechabellum. Who do you think is the best player in your company?
Right now, the best player in the company should be Sim. His name tag directly translates into Little M. He joined our company not too long ago and is already the best. You can often catch him winning tournaments. There are also 2 or 3 other strong players, but they are about the same level as me.
One of the most popular questions that I've collected surrounds the unit drop. Now, can you talk a little bit about the thought process behind the unit drop in the first place?
We added unit drop mechanism to the game after extensive research, both from data and also from our own experiences with the game. Our team plays a lot of Mechabellum. For example, my account on Steam has over 10,000 hours of gameplay. Over such a long period, we started to feel dissatisfied with the game's variability. So we wanted to add more opportunities for change during battles, rather than just executing a predetermined strategy over and over. We hope players can dynamically respond to new situations and find solutions during the game. Initially, we weren't sure if the new mechanism would meet our expectations, so we conducted experiments and received feedback. Eventually, we decided to keep the mechanism based on the feedback. Although not all feedback was positive, but statistically speaking, we had more positives than negatives. However, this new system isn't perfect, and you've probably seen multiple changes to it since its release already, and we are continuously optimizing it to provide a better gaming experience for all players. There were several issues. One major issue is that the unit drop system can disrupt players' predetermined strategies too much, making them feel powerless. We have tried to reduce this feeling in subsequent patches, such as removing certain highly disruptive units like the hacker. Another issue is the real and perceived values added by different units to a board. Some units may not cost much in supply, but can introduce a significant tactical advantage. We have adjusted the values based on player feedback to balance the resources and provide more choices for players.
There are currently 3 units that you can only get from these unit drops. Will we ever see more units being added to the unit drops, or perhaps having these rare units moved to the core unit pack so that we can add them into our regular strategies?
We call these units rare units internally, and the others are core units. We plan to add some rare units to the core units in the future, and possibly the other way around, turning some core units into rare units. However, before we can experiment with these movements, we need to have more unit types in the game. We plan to add at least 5 new units in the coming months. Once these units are added, we will re-evaluate which units should become core units or rare units.
Right now, when you host a private game, you can turn off the unit drop option. Is there a plan to offer the similar option for ladder games?
We don't plan to do that for now. We evaluated the feasibility and found that it would split the ladder queue into 6, increasing matchmaking time and making future balancing more difficult. We want most players to experience the rare units, which wouldn't be possible without the unit drop system.
Some players, myself included, are very curious about the process of balancing. How do you decide when to buff or nerf a unit? What do you look at? Can you provide an example?
Our balance adjustments are based on 3 main sources: statistical data from our backend, our design team's gameplay experience, and player feedback. We analyze data to identify units with low pick rate and win rates, and units with high pick rate and win rates. We prioritize adjustments based on the impact on the game. For example, units with low pick rate and low win rates are observed but not necessarily adjusted immediately, as they have a smaller impact to the current state of the game. Units with high pick rate and low win rates are also observed, as players may perceive them as strong, but they may not have yet figured out how to use them effectively. We'd like to see if the players can invent a new strategy before balancing, instead of artificially increasing its pick rate even further. The most concerning situation is when a unit has both high pick rate and win rates, as it indicates it is too strong and can affect the game's strategy diversity and overall enjoyment. These are the situations that prompt balancing the most.
How do you decide when to buff or nerf a particular item in the game? To my understanding, there were definitely a few cards that were removed. What's the thought process behind that? What information do you look at to make that decision?
We add items to provide novel game experiences and challenges in each match. If an item's impact is too significant or unfair, we try to adjust its price or mechanism. If adjustments don't work after repeated tries, we remove them. For example, the parasite ammo was removed after multiple adjustments failed to balance it. Another example is the laser sight item, which increases unit range. It's a very popular item, but can limit certain tech designs and gameplay diversity. As a result of that, we adjusted its cost.
Sometimes I've seen players complain about the game being too challenging, especially from low MMR players. Is there any plan on helping low MMR players or new players to get better, aside from matchmaking and the current tutorials?
We acknowledge that the current tutorial is not very good. We plan to overhaul the tutorial before the 1.0 release to improve its quality. We also want to provide more ways for players to find tutorials on platforms like YouTube. However, the game itself is inherently challenging, and while we will try to improve it, we accept that it will be somewhat difficult for some new players.
Is there any plans to expand the competitive realm outside of the mini or weekend tournaments? For example, larger biannual or annual tournaments, whether it's online or offline?
We have many plans for tournaments. Besides the existing mini tournaments and weekend tournaments, we plan to add tournaments for other game modes, like 2v2. We are also discussing with our publisher about organizing larger-scale tournaments, either offline or online, with more commentary and live streaming. These won't be in-game mechanisms, but will be regular large-scale tournaments with actual prizes pushing Mechabellum in the direction of esports. We've definitely tried offline events, for example, the most recent tournament at DreamHack Sweden. It's a learning process, and we hope to become better at executing larger tournaments with the help of members of the player base. We're also looking into sponsoring community-led tournaments, as we believe they create a very positive experience for our players. However, ultimately, the game's player base needs to be large enough to support such events.
What tech do you think the community currently undervalues?
Some technologies are underused because they are weak. For example, the heavy target technology for the steel balls is weak and rarely used. It's a very situational tech, but also very tricky to adjust, as we can easily make it overpowered. Another example is the assault mode for the marksman, which I find strong but isn't very popular among players. It's especially unpopular among low MMR players, as giant robots and long-distance units may seem more straightforward at that level. I mean, I get it. Who wouldn't want big robots and explosions in a robot fight game? Assault Marksman is a lot more nuanced and will need more tactical planning.
Is it possible to add an option to toggle full map grid display during the deployment phase so that we can more easily gauge the distance between units?
We plan to add a grid display option in the deployment phase. It's not in the game yet because our developers are busy with other features. But we fully support the idea, and it will be available in the near future. We currently have multiple concurrent projects, so priorities can change quickly. However, we're working hard on increasing the frequency of updates so players can get a chance to try new things sooner. But don't worry, we've heard a lot of great ideas from the community, and many are actively being worked on.
Here's a very popular request. Can we have an undo button for when we're making mistakes during the deployment phase?
The undo button is already planned and will be added before the 1.0 release.
Can we save a certain round from replay and open it in testing ground? This would have been a huge benefit for players looking to learn exactly what went wrong in their game. Is this possible?
We plan to optimize the replay system in the next major update. This includes easier jumping to specific rounds and downloading tournament replays, so players who miss the tournaments can still watch all the games. We also plan to introduce a feature that allows players to take over one side in a replay and play from that point. This is a very exciting feature, and I believe will open many opportunities for post-game analysis and learning. This feature is in development and should be available soon.
Right now, when a user disconnects, whether it's through a game crash or otherwise, they get kicked out of the game. And it gets really annoying, especially if they're in a tournament game. Is there a way or any plans in the future to reconnect them back into the game?
This feature will be added in the next major update. The development is complete, but we need more testing to ensure stability. We aim to add it soon, allowing players to reconnect to their matches.
Will we ever be able to save our own recommended formations?
The recommended formations are automatically collected from high MMR players' first-round setups. The system automatically tracks their win rates and removes low-performing formations and adding new ones. We think adding a custom preset formations is a good idea and will consider it in the future, but it's currently not a priority project.
Right now, there are a few units that have fewer tech than the rest, namely fans, crawlers, and mustangs. When could we be seeing additional tech for some units that are lacking in this department? And also, what about the rare units? Right now, we cannot make adjustments to them. Is there a plan in place to include additional technologies for the rare units as well?
Yes, we plan to expand their technology options. Some units have fewer options because developing technologies for them is challenging. For example, the Mustang has low health, so we can only work on its attack attributes such as increasing its attack rates, damage, or range. This makes developing new technologies difficult. But we hope to add more technologies for such units. For rare units, the lack of technologies is why they are rare. When some of these units become core units, we can expect to include additional technologies.
Right now, there are a lot of wonderful skins for a lot of units, except for the chaff units. So, for crawlers and fans, is there a plan to add custom skins in the future?
We are planning new unit skins. However, our team is currently focused on other features, so players will need to be a bit more patient with new skin releases. As for chaff unit skins, they're less visible due to the model size, so it's not a high priority item for us right now, but we hope to add skins for chaff units in the future.
Are there going to be new units coming in the coming months?
Yes, we have 5 to 6 new units in development. In the next major update, we will add a new 200 supply unit, which isn't a chaff unit but has high health. We also plan to add a new chaff unit that specializes in attacking other chaff units. This concept has received a lot of positive feedback internally, and we are actively working on it. However, it will take some time, as we don't want to add more than one new unit per month to avoid overwhelming players. So stay tuned.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. There's a rumor going around about a chaff unit that is more of a support unit. Is that true? What kind of chaff unit are you currently working on? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Is purely a DPS unit specialized in chaff clear. There is another unit in the works that has many support abilities, but it still has its own attack capabilities. While we're considering units that can fit into more of a support role, we generally avoid making purely support units without any combat abilities.
Wow, thank you very much, Bearlike, for taking time to do this interview today. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to say to the community right now?
I want to say that this game is still in development and hasn't left the early access stage. We will make many adjustments and add new content in the days to come, so the game won't be perfect yet. There will be things you like and things you don't. I hope players can be patient with us as we work hard to improve the game experience. We are hearing you, and we're working to improve things you don't like, and many things you like will get better. We thank you for your continual support and patience, allowing us to build a game that'll stand the test of time.
Thank you very much for watching this interview. A lot of very exciting things to come in Mechabellum. If you have any questions about this interview or just questions in general, you can find me on the Mechabellum Discord under the name Stoney. And of course, you can always just leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Well, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you on the next one.